C&N was a very important railway in its time, but its future is not in rail. Its future is as a trail.
I think there's an appetite to see rail restored. I don't think there's an appetite to see the costs associated and the taxation increases associated with a proper restoration of the surface.
The UK is a country that was built in rail, but what most people don't realise about the UK is most of the small railways are now gone because they're no longer economically viable.
A rail line generally makes its money through commercial freight, not through passenger travel. And without a significant increase in the amount of commercial freight being carried on the longer rail line, the business case to make that sort of capital investment becomes increasingly precarious. I think the idea of having enhanced trail availability along this rail line is a great idea for the long-term future of our area.
We already have an example of this in Victoria. The Galloping Goose Regional Trail is hugely successful, and it was built on an old CNR railway. It's perfect for a trail because it's level, it's very easy to ride, it's easy to walk. There's an amazing course through a lot of great scenery.
I think the cycling infrastructure is just a great thing, cycling and walking infrastructure.
I bring my preschooler to school drop-off every day using the Galloping Goose, and the baby comes along for the ride.
The Island Corridor would be a fantastic asset. It travels along our southern border on the vineyard, and I mean a way for people to travel to Blue Grouse Estate Winery by bike, by foot, that brings them through the countryside to our lower gates and up to the tasting room seems like a hyper valuable access point for us.
There are some tourists using the Galloping Goose already, but it has the potential to be part of a much longer trail system using this corridor. That would take people from the mainland through Swartz Bay onto the Galloping Goose, up the trail to Courtenay Comox, and then across back to the mainland so that you would have a tourist loop.
From a tourism perspective, I could see a lot of value in creating a corridor that people come equipped with bicycles or hiking trails, and they essentially go on a multi-day journey up the island, visiting the local establishments along the way.
Well, I think if we look south to the Galloping Goose and the tremendous success that's had, it's reasonable to assume that there would be numerous tourists who would be willing to come here.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the community. Tourism in the Cowichan Valley is really important, especially in the summer. For cyclists to be able to expand their route and then being able to come down and visit here would be great.
I think that Duncan is a very walkable city downtown, and having a trail access to the downtown core I think would be very helpful to that.
I come through this from a couple different perspectives, but it could be almost tremendously positive on all aspects. I mean, I live in Cobble Hills, just south of town, right near the railway line. I know many people who would actively use this either to commute or to recreate. I've even seen the incorporation of the Great Trail over the Malahat. We've seen a huge tourism influx over the summer after that, and how much the Cowichan Valley Trail is used all the time.
So we already know that the rail is not economically viable, but there's another reason why rail can never come back. There are 5 First Nations on the corridor, and the rail corridor goes through their reserves. One of them already has the land in the reserve back, so that's a corridor cut in one place. The other 4 are going to get their land back, so it'll be cut in 5 places.
And at present, we have a situation where north of Nanaimo, there is no continuous connection to Victoria. As such, it makes sense that we should look at how can we utilize this land. In my view, looking at a relatively modest investment in active transportation helps get people out of the house, creates an attraction for tourists, and has relatively low amount of maintenance and staffing